Want more free Google traffic to your website? Who doesn't? The more high quality SEO content you have on your website, the more opportunities you have to rank in the search engines and get in front of people who actually want to buy your stuff. Blogging is one of the best ways to consistently add high quality content to your website that's optimized for the web. If you haven't already, make sure that you sign up for my free on-demand training, WTF is SEO, where you'll get all the basics of SEO before you actually start creating content. Now, let's dive into how to write a great blog post for SEO. There are a few things you need to do before you start writing. The first is to pick a topic. You want to choose a topic that's relevant to your audience, something that they'll find interesting, valuable, basically something that they actually want to read about. This might require you to do some research, see what's already out there on the topic and how you can add to the conversation. Once you have some topics, then it's time to do your keyword research. Some people will actually do the keyword research first and then use that to inform their topics, but other people might like to choose the general topic and then narrow it down based on the keywords that they found. If you don't know how to find keywords, make sure that you watch my video on how to do keyword research for blogging. Because if you want this content to rank in the search engines, keywords are going to be a really important part of that process. Once you've got the topic and the keywords, it's time to create an outline. Now, not everyone wants to create a really complex, comprehensive outline before they start writing. But I find with me and most of my clients, having some type of outline that at least covers the major sections of the blog post will save you time once you actually start writing. Now, let's look at the sections of a blog post and talk about what should happen in each of these sections. So to show you how to write a blog post for SEO, I'm going to show you an example of a blog post I wrote and go through each section so that you have an understanding for what goes in each part of the blog. So the first section of the blog post is an intro. You want to start with some kind of hook, something that gets the reader interested while also giving them an idea of what you're going to talk about. So my hook here is, you didn't start your business to become a content creator, yet here you are asking yourself, how the hell am I going to find the time to create all this content I need to market my business? So if this resonates with you, you may be interested in reading the rest of the blog post. That's what you want to do with your own blog post. The first sentence should be able to tell the person reading it if it's worthwhile to read the rest of it. I like to keep my intros short, 3 to 4 paragraphs, and by paragraph, I mean 2 to 3 sentences tops. Basically, all you need in this intro is to give a little context into the problem or the thing that you're going to be discussing, and then give the reader a roadmap for what they will find in the blog post. So, for instance, I talk about content repurposing and why it's important up here, so that people know it's important and they'll be more likely to read the rest of the post. Then I offer a roadmap into what I'm actually going to be talking about. Let's dive into what content repurposing is and how to repurpose content for social media, blog posts, and emails, so they know exactly what they're going to get from this blog post. The next part is the body, which is the bulk of the blog post. You'll see here we've got a long body. And this body is broken up into subheadings, which tells us what's going to come in that section. So these subheadings are important for a few different reasons. For SEO purposes, it gives us a place to use the keyword to signal to Google that you're talking about this specific thing. So in this instance, content repurposing is probably my keyword, and I'm using it in the subheading here. Then I'm going to talk about what content repurposing is. I need to establish that before I can get into how to actually repurpose your content. There really is no hard fast rule on how much content needs to be under each subheading or how much content needs to be in each section. You really just want to use common sense for that. So here I define what content repurposing is, I talk about why it's important, and then we move on to the next section of how to actually repurpose. Now, in your body, you're going to have opportunities to use images, videos, and other types of media. So here, I'm not really a graphics person. So in this case, I borrowed an awesome graphic from SEMrush, and I gave them credit here. So you do want to use images, whether you create them yourself, you borrow them from someone else, or you just use like stock photos. You definitely want images within the body. In terms of borrowing other people's images like this, you want to make sure that you give them credit on the blog post. If you're in an industry that is highly regulated, I suggest just staying away from borrowing other people's graphics altogether. But definitely give credit, because you don't want to plagiarize. That shows readers that you may not be trustworthy. So before I made this post, I made an outline of the sections I was going to create, and then went ahead and just expanded on each of the sections here, so you can see how I did that. And you'll notice here we have a subheading under a subheading, right? And so that's just a way to organize our content hierarchically. So this here is an H2 and this is an H3. And then finally, the conclusion. This comes at the end of the blog post. What you want to do is make sure that you have wrapped up the topic, you've reiterated why it's important, and that you've added a call to action. So you'll notice that I put call to actions all throughout the blog post, and the reason for that is that this is a long blog post. It's over 2,000 words. So not everyone's going to get through the whole post. So up here underneath the video, I made a call to action to go check out my YouTube channel. Towards the bottom here, I made a call to action to go download my free content calendar template, because it was relevant to what I had just talked about previously. But my final CTA is to book a power hour with me. That's where I want to drive people from this blog post. And then I just ask a question. Need help getting started with your content repurposing strategy? Book a power hour with me and we'll create a plan for you to repurpose your content. So here you'll see that the call to action is relevant to the topic. So I'm specifically saying if you need help repurposing, you can meet with me. And then this link goes to my power hour page where people can book a call with me. So that's the structure of a blog post. And those are the essential pieces that you need to write a valuable and effective blog post for SEO. Okay, so now that you know all the different parts of a blog post and how to write each section, let's talk about what happens after you write. The revision process can look a little different for everyone, but here are some general things you're going to do while you're revising your blog content. The first thing you want to do is read your blog post out loud and see if there are any areas that need more context or don't quite sound right. Now, this might sound silly, but it's actually a technique I use in my college freshman writing classes to help them revise. Even if you're not a master at the English language, when you read something out loud, you're able to hear when things sound awkward or not quite right, when there needs to be a pause, things like that. So it will actually help you fix the writing without actually knowing all the grammar rules. So after you've read the blog post out loud and made changes where there needs to be changes, you'll want to run it through a grammar and spell check. I use Grammarly for this. There is a free version of Grammarly which helps quite a bit, but of course the paid version has even more features that will help your content sound even better. In fact, as a professional writer, someone with a master's degree in English, someone who teaches writing, I use Grammarly in my everyday work just because it catches things that I don't quite catch sometimes, or it will help me make things that already sound pretty good sound even better. So if you're interested in the paid version, I did drop my affiliate link in the description, so you can check that out and see if the paid version is worth it for you. The last part of the revision process can be to have someone else read the blog post, make sure it sounds right. If you are working on a team or working for a business, it can be easier to find a colleague to read it. If you're working on your own, like you're a blogger and it's just you, then it might be harder to find someone else to read it. But again, that's where things like Grammarly and reading it out loud to yourself can really help. And once you're past that initial revision stage, it's time to make sure everything is formatted so that we can get the best SEO results. You want to make sure that your subheadings are formatted properly. So earlier we talked about H2, H3, H4, and that's what I'm talking about here. Make sure that all of those are formatted properly before you publish the blog post. You'll also want to look at things like readability. So can someone scan your blog post and get the main points without reading it word for word? Some ways that you can make your content more readable is to make sure your paragraphs are short, 2 to 3 sentences max. Make sure that you're using bullet points or numbered lists when it's applicable. You can also use things like pictures or infographics to explain complex things in a visual way. Speaking of images, don't forget to add images to your blog post. It makes things more interesting, but it can also help add context to what you're talking about. Lastly, you want to make sure that you hyperlink any sources. So any information that you took from another source, like a statistic, you want to make sure that you link back to that source so that the person reading can go look at the original content. You also want to add internal links. So this can be a link to a service page, another page on your website, another blog post, a podcast, really any content you have that's relevant and will help add value to the topic that you're talking about. Building these internal links will help your SEO, so try to use a couple in each blog post. So now that you have the recipe for a great blog post, it's time to start writing. Start with 1 post a month and work up from there. It's best to be consistent, so if you can only publish 1 blog post a month at first, that's totally fine. And if you haven't already, watch my video on keyword research for blogging so that you can make sure you have the right keywords to use in the content. And be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a video. In my next video, I'm going to talk about where to actually use those keywords within the blog post to make sure it's optimized. I've also dropped a link to my free on-demand training, WTF is SEO, in the description. This is going to give you everything you need to know about SEO before you actually get started creating content. Until next time.